Your life isn't real, it's a reflection. You've spent years trying to fix things on the outside, chasing success, controlling circumstances, pushing harder, but nothing seems to shift in a lasting way. That's because you've been looking in the wrong direction. Reality isn't a machine you operate. It's a mirror, quietly reflecting back what you believe to be true about yourself and the world. Not what you want, but what you are. And if the image in front of the mirror hasn't changed, the reflection never will. You've been trying to manipulate the echo instead of changing the voice that created it. But what if everything you see around you is just a loop, a repeating feedback cycle that begins and ends within you? This isn't a theory or a metaphor, it's a principle. And once you understand it, nothing about your life will look the same again. Most people think reality is objective, something happening to them, around them, outside of their control. They believe life is just a stream of external events they have to respond to. A job loss here, a difficult relationship there, a streak of bad luck they can't quite explain. But that idea that reality is a fixed structure we must navigate is the very reason so many feel powerless, stuck, or disconnected. Because the truth is far more confronting and far more liberating. Reality is not external, it is reflective. It doesn't reflect the world, it reflects you, your beliefs, your self-image, your expectations, your emotional state. The mirror principle teaches that everything you see outside of you is a feedback loop from what you hold inside. It doesn't reflect your conscious desires or fleeting thoughts. It reflects the core stories you tell yourself over and over again, even when you're not aware of them, especially when you're not aware of them. You say you want love, but deep down you don't believe you're worthy of it. The mirror doesn't reflect what you ask for, it reflects what you expect. So instead of love, you get abandonment, inconsistency, rejection. You say you want abundance, but your identity is still wrapped around struggle, guilt, scarcity. So life reflects more of the same. It's not punishing you, it's obeying you. Reality is a loyal servant to your inner world. You are not responding to life, you are generating it. This principle is confronting because it removes the ability to blame circumstances. It puts the responsibility back into your hands, not as guilt, but as power. Because if your internal state is what shapes your external life, then you're never truly stuck. You're just caught in a mirror you haven't yet cleaned. And the moment you start changing the image in front of the mirror, the reflection has to follow. That's not philosophy, that's physics. Consciousness precedes form. Most people never question the stories they inherited about who they are. They're walking around with identities programmed by parents, teachers, trauma, media, and society, and then wondering why life keeps playing out in the same painful way. The mirror doesn't argue, it doesn't judge. It simply says, so be it. Show it chaos, it gives you more. Show it doubt, you'll get endless reasons to doubt yourself. But show it clarity, strength, worthiness, and the reflection must shift. There's a reason transformation feels like war. You're not just changing habits, you're tearing down the identity that built the old life. You're replacing decades of programming with intention. You're standing in front of the mirror and saying, this is who I choose to be now, even when nothing outside has caught up yet. And the mirror listens. It might not change overnight, but it listens. Because unlike people, life doesn't care what you say. It listens to what you believe, what you feel, what you hold. Some teachings are too deep, too raw, too disruptive to be shared here. That's why we created Insights Academy, a free newsletter where we explore hidden knowledge we can't publish on this platform. Sign up using the link below, and you'll also get a free copy of the Kybellion, but only while it's available. There's a quiet power that comes from finally accepting that you are not at the mercy of your reality. You're the one feeding it. Every belief is a brushstroke, every identity is a filter, And until you change that internal filter, life will continue to echo the same experience again and again, dressed in different clothes but carrying the same lesson. The mirror principle doesn't just ask you to dream bigger, it asks you to become the version of yourself who already lives inside that dream, because once you shift who you're being, life has no choice but to catch up. The most sobering truth about the mirror of reality is this: it has no preference. It doesn't judge you, it doesn't reward you for being good or punish you for being bad. It doesn't care how hard you try, how much you want, or how long you've been suffering.
The mirror doesn't operate on fairness or morality. It simply reflects whatever stands in front of it. If that image is distorted, fragmented, built on fear or limitation, the reflection will be too. Not because life is cruel, but because the mirror has no agenda. It just obeys. You might wish for peace, for love, for success. But if the identity you carry says, "I am unworthy," "I'm always overlooked," or "life is hard," the mirror will keep showing you circumstances that make those statements true, not because the world is against you, but because that's the data you're feeding it. This is where most people get trapped. They affirm one thing with their mouth, but embody another with their mind. They declare abundance, yet feel anxious and undeserving. They ask for love, yet still carry the scars of abandonment like a badge. And so the mirror reflects the truth, not of their words, but of their energy. You can't outsmart the mirror. You can't lie to it. You can only shift what you're projecting into it. That's why self-deception is so dangerous. It creates a gap between what you say you want and who you're actually being. And in that gap, frustration grows. You wonder why nothing's changing, why manifestations don't land, why it feels like the universe has forgotten you. But it hasn't. It's listening with precision, and it's responding with absolute accuracy. The mirror doesn't reflect desire, it reflects conviction. This is why surface-level affirmations often fall flat. You can repeat, "I am abundant," all day long, but if your body is tight with fear, if your nervous system is still bracing for lack, if your identity still clings to the past version of you who always had to fight, then that's what the mirror responds to. It's not about what you say when you're trying to manifest. It's about who you are when you're not trying. That's the true broadcast. That's the signal the mirror locks onto. So when you see repeating patterns in your life, don't take them personally. Take them as clues. If every relationship ends the same way, if money always slips through your fingers, if opportunities seem just out of reach, that's not random. That's feedback. The mirror isn't punishing you. It's showing you where your internal script is still running on autopilot. And once you stop fighting the reflection and start decoding it, you gain something most people never touch: sovereignty. Because if the mirror has no agenda, then that means you're the one holding the brush. You're the artist, the author, the scriptwriter, not of other people's actions, not of the weather or global events, but of how your inner world responds, aligns, and therefore attracts. And when that shifts, everything shifts. You stop begging life to change. You stop waiting for the right moment, the right person, the right breakthrough. Instead, you become the source of the shift. It's not your job to force the reflection to change. It's your job to change the image that the mirror is responding to upgrade your identity, to clean the lens of perception that keeps showing you the same old scene. And when you do, the mirror will reflect back the new version of you. Not because it wants to, not because it loves you, but because it has to. It has no choice. That's the power in this principle. Neutrality. It means no one's holding you back. No one's deciding your fate. The mirror is simply listening. The only question is, what are you showing it? Most people spend their entire lives arguing with the mirror. They look at their current reality, broken relationships, empty bank accounts, daily stress, and they try to fix what they see without ever realizing they're staring at the echo, not the source. They change jobs, move cities, start new habits, end old ones, hoping something will finally click. But the pattern always returns. Maybe not in the same form, but in essence. Different face, same energy, new opportunity, same fear. And they're left wondering why life feels like running on a treadmill, exhausting effort, no real progress. It's because they're trapped in the reflection, reacting to the output instead of shifting the input. When you make decisions based on what's in the mirror, you're already too late. The reflection has already formed. It's old news. It's not reality in motion. It's the delayed printout of who you've been. And yet, this is what most people base their identity on. They look at what the mirror shows them and they say, "This is who I am. Broke, alone, unlucky, overwhelmed." But that's like standing in front of a mirror frowning and expecting the reflection to smile first. It doesn't work that way. It never has, and it never will.
The mirror doesn't lead, it follows, but we've been trained to believe the opposite. We wait for evidence before we believe. We wait for success before we feel worthy. We wait for love before we open our hearts. And this creates the loop, the exact trap that keeps people locked in patterns for years, even decades. They believe that if their circumstances changed, they would change, but the mirror is waiting for them to go first, not with hustle, not with grind, but with internal shift. It's a subtle, powerful form of slavery, living in reaction. You become a puppet of your own reflection. The moment you feel a setback, your self-worth dips. The moment someone disapproves, you shrink. The moment life gives you a no, you begin to question your path. But what if that reflection wasn't a final verdict? What if it was simply information, letting you know what energy you've been carrying so you can choose again? Because the moment you stop reacting, you start reclaiming. You start remembering that the reflection isn't a judge, it's a mirror. And that gives you power not to control life, but to influence it from the inside out. When you stop needing the mirror to change before you feel better, you flip the entire script. You become the cause, not the consequence. And that's when life begins to soften, because you're no longer adding resistance to the echo. Here's where the breakthrough lives. The mirror has no memory. It doesn't care what's happened in your past. It doesn't care what you failed at. It doesn't care how long you've been stuck. The moment you change the image you're showing it, the reflection begins to shift, not instantly, but inevitably. Specific. In that version of your life, who are you? How do you carry yourself? How do you respond to challenge? What thoughts do you think? What values do you live by? What energy do you bring into the room? Close your eyes and meet that version. See them, hear them, feel them. That's the image the mirror needs, not a desperate wish, but a solid identity, one you commit to before any evidence shows up. Once you have that version in your mind, translate it into words. Craft affirmations that aren't fluffy slogans, but declarations of identity. Not, "I hope to be successful," but "I am a powerful creator. I trust myself. I walk in clarity and purpose." And don't just say them, feel them, rehearse them, burn them into your nervous system until they feel more natural than the old lies ever did. Your subconscious doesn't respond to logic, it responds to repetition. But don't stop at affirmations. Embody. Ask yourself daily, what would this version of me do right now? Would they shrink back into doubt, or would they trust the process? Would they worry about how things appear? Or walk forward knowing the mirror is catching up? Every choice you make while holding that new identity is a signal. A signal that says, "This is who I am now." And the mirror listens. Slowly at first. Then suddenly, you're not faking it, you're remembering it. You're peeling back the conditioned identity and stepping into the truth that's been waiting underneath. And it's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. Living as the clearest version of who you choose to be, not who you've been programmed to stay. This is how the mirror shifts. Not through force, but through frequency. Not by begging for a better reflection, but by becoming the person the reflection can't ignore. And once that new image becomes your default, not your effort, the world around you will reorganize. Not because you've demanded it, but because you've aligned with it. That's the hidden power of rebuilding the image. The mirror isn't the goal, it's just the feedback. The real transformation begins and ends with you. Almost everyone is stuck in the same unconscious loop. They look at life, react to what they see, and let that reaction dictate how they think, feel, and behave. Something goes wrong, they spiral. Someone disrespects them, they shrink. An opportunity disappears, they doubt their worth. They believe they're responding to life, but really they're just responding to a reflection. And as long as they keep living that way, nothing changes. They're trapped in a mirror cycle they don't even know exists. Here's how that cycle plays out for most people. Observe, react, reinforce. You observe your circumstances, your finances, your health, your relationships. You react emotionally based on what you see. That emotional state reinforces the beliefs you already hold. I'm not enough. I'll never get ahead. Life is against me. Those beliefs shape your internal image, and that image becomes the signal the mirror reflects back into your life. So the cycle loops. Your reactions generate more of the same outcomes, and the mirror obeys again and again. It's a perfect trap because it feels like logic. You're just reacting to what's real, right?
Wrong. You're reacting to what's already been created by the version of you that came before. The mirror doesn't show you what's true, it shows you what's familiar. And it keeps showing you that until you stop playing the same identity on repeat. But here's the shift that changes everything. Conscious creators flip the mirror cycle. They don't wait for the reflection to tell them how to feel. They decide who they are before the mirror shows it back. They choose the image regardless of what's currently reflected. And because the mirror has no choice but to follow the image, reality begins to bend. Slowly at first, then obviously, then undeniably. When you flip the formula, the order becomes this: identity first, energy second, action third, reflection last. You wake up and declare, "This is who I am." And you align your energy with that truth. You feel into it, you move from it, and you don't look to the mirror for validation. You trust the reflection is on its way, even if it hasn't arrived yet. And the more consistent you are with the signal, the faster the feedback changes. This is how mastery begins. Not by controlling the outside world, but by mastering the source of the signal. And the source is always you, not your circumstances, not your past, not your environment, just you. And when you start from that place, the game changes completely. You stop chasing reflections, you start creating them. There will be moments when the old reality tries to pull you back, when the mirror tempts you to believe nothing's different. But if you hold the new image through that resistance, you break the loop. You interrupt the algorithm. You override the autopilot with intention. And the mirror has to shift. Not because you're special, but because you're finally using the rule book correctly. Flipping the mirror cycle isn't about pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's not about spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. It's about holding a deeper truth even when the surface hasn't caught up. It's about deciding who you are and then letting the world rearrange itself around that decision. And it will. Not always immediately, but always, eventually. Because once the image changes, the mirror must follow. That's not hope. That's law. There's a moment in the journey where something inside you shifts. Not because your circumstances have changed, not because you got what you wanted, but because you realize you're done waiting.
You stop needing the reflection to catch up before you claim who you are. You stop negotiating with doubt. You stop asking for permission to feel empowered, fulfilled, worthy. That's the moment you step into the reflection before it arrives. And that moment changes everything. Most people delay their identity. They tell themselves, when I have the money, I'll feel secure. When I meet the right person, I'll be confident. When my life finally works, I'll relax. But the mirror doesn't work on future tense. It doesn't say, once you get it, you'll feel it. It says, once you feel it, you'll get it. Not because the feeling magically creates results, but because the feeling is evidence of alignment. And alignment is the frequency the mirror responds to. Living in the reflection before it shows up doesn't mean faking it. It means feeling into it, choosing to embody the energy of the reality you want as if it's already here. You don't wait for the world to change. You show up as if it already has. You walk into the day with the posture, tone, rhythm, and calm of someone who knows they're already becoming. You move from faith, not fear, from inner truth, not external proof. And that shift changes the way life meets you. People will begin to respond differently. Opportunities will start showing up without you chasing them. You'll handle setbacks with a calm you didn't have before, because your internal world is no longer dictated by temporary appearances. You've moved out of reaction and into creation, not because everything's perfect, but because you finally stopped tying your identity to what's currently visible. It's not easy. You'll still have days where the old story whispers in your ear. You'll still be tempted to look to the outside world for confirmation, but that's the test. Can you hold the new image even when nothing outside supports it yet? Can you live as the future version of yourself before the mirror has caught up? That's the edge. That's where the old self dies and the new one is born. This isn't about ignoring reality. It's about rewriting it from the inside out. You're not delusional for acting like your life is already aligned. You're disciplined. You're courageous. You're no longer letting the mirror dictate your state. You're showing the mirror who to reflect. You're not waiting for life to say yes. You're saying yes to yourself now and trusting that the reflection will adjust in time.